Welcome in, welcome in. I'm so excited to see you today. It's your girl, Yolonda Jay, and I'm here for another iteration of the Sit Down with Yolonda Jay. I'm so excited to welcome you back to the Sit Down for today's conversation. It's going to be for founders, executives, and leaders who have built something successful on paper, but yet quietly feel the weight of carrying everything alone. Growth looks good from the outside, but eternally it just feels heavy and complex and unsustainable. Yep, you guessed it. I'm sitting down with Maleeka Hollaway, founder and leadership operations strategist, keynote speaker, award-winning entrepreneur. The list goes on. But here's what you need to know. She helps small business executives build sustainable companies without burning themselves out. With over a decade of experience working behind the scenes as a former agency owner and publicist, Maleeka understands what it takes to grow a business and what it costs when systems, leadership, and clarity are missing. Today, through her work under Lead and Influence, Maleeka partners with founders whose companies depend too heavily on just themselves. Raise your hand if that's you, because that's kind of me, right? She helps us build operational structures that support both growth and personal well-being. This conversation matters because leadership was never meant to be carried alone. Maleeka Hollaway is here, and I'm so glad you are. Welcome to the Sit Down. Hey, girl, hey.
Hello. Hey, thank you for having me.
Listen, you are one of the most, I say prolific. I should Google that word because I'm using it. Am I using it right? One of the most prolific entrepreneur leadership development people in my arsenal. And I will say my network is dope. You crossed my timeline and I was like, this is a no-brainer. Like, oh, I'm going to take a minute because it's my show and I can take a minute if I want to just give you your flowers.
It's your show, right?
It's my show. It's my time. All right. I want to give you your flowers because when I first met you, we were in a ministry together. And one thing I was trying to do was get connected inside of this fast growing ministry. And I remember coming across you. I mean, you were super, super casual. I wouldn't even know who you were and what you have done in the past, right? By how you looked that day. You had like a ball cap on, no makeup, and you were just getting in the weeds with this outreach project that we were doing. And that was my way of connecting to this ministry and meeting people. And the moment I saw you, I was like, oh, she speaks my language. Like the way you moved in that space and the way you put things together, the way you were troubleshooting, because I mean, it was always something coming up in the moment, right? And I was like, whoa, your style of leadership, which also made people feel good, right? Like you made them feel good about being on a team and doing and praising them as they were doing the things that they needed to do. The whole thing, I was just like, who is she? And I want to know her. So that's my flowers. And I really loved how that moment progressed to even something bigger that we did together in the entrepreneur space. And I want to appreciate you for the personal impact you had on me. And as I read your bio preparing for this show, I was like, yeah, she's talking about me actually. might need to be one of her clients because I'm doing everything by myself.
Y'all out here. Yes.
I'm doing
No,
everything
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you are one of the most amazing people. And you're really quiet about how impactful you are. And I know you have a PR background, but I think you are more used to pushing people than praising yourself. And man, your bio is all that. I didn't even have a time to read it word for word, but we'll definitely post it on our page because there are going to be some people who want to reach out to you for the help that you have. One of the things about the sit down is that I want to have a conversation when we're talking about leaders, and you use the word founders, which I love, when we have that business space. So I want to talk about kind of your lived experience and how you got to this point of helping others in the space that you're in now.
Even what you just said with how you met me, and what I was doing and how I was doing it. There's a reason why I don't lead into telling people all of the stuff, all of the things. Because when I meet people, sometimes that's what they do. And I'm always like, oh, okay, but your attitude is funky. Ugh. Mm. You'll never be in my network, right? And so I just believe that who you are as a leader, but even just who you are as a person, it shows up when nobody's looking. It shows up in the serving part when there's not a paycheck involved. That's when you really see who you are and what you do. And so I fell into entrepreneurship. I fell into owning a business. It was not on my list of things to do. But I woke up one day and I did not have a job. And my sister, my younger sister, said, "Well, you already write for people. Just get paid for it." And I was like, "Oh,
That makes
maybe
sense.
so." Yeah, like I never thought about that. And at the time, I don't know if you remember this platform, Periscope was out.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Throwback.
so was out. I jumped on, I started going live, just talking about life, then talking about me moving into business and talking about how I was branding myself. I co-authored a book that ended up being an Amazon bestseller. This is before that became really popular. And that's how I grew the followers. And from that, everything else just started to fall into place. So when I started out, I was doing a lot of personal talk. Telling my background, my story of being in a marriage that didn't serve me well, deciding to become a single mom from that marriage, and then realizing, hey, I got to show my daughter something different. I started out talking about all the personal stuff. But as time would have it, I started focusing more on the business of things. And Periscope went away, which I hated. And TikTok is low key a Periscope, but it does not feel the same. So I can't get into it. But that's how I got into business ownership. I fell into it. I fell into being a founder. I can't say I fell into being a leader because I've been leading since I was 12.
Wow.
But I fell into it. It was not anything I planned. It was before it became popular too. So there's that part.
I love that because most of us have, and I serve an audience who has a passion for and don't know how to monetize it. And that's almost the same
Mm.
thing that your sister did for you. Like you have a passion, you have a gift, you have a skill set, but how do I monetize
Yeah.
that? That's where I'm trying to get other people to think you can monetize your gift, your talents, and your experience. Okay. And you don't
Absolutely.
have to quit your full-time job to monetize it. So that's that's my message about that. So you talked about, being in a space where people don't know who you are. So you spent a lot of years working behind the scenes with big name leaders, big name organizations. What patterns did you notice about growth, leadership, and burnout that ultimately shaped that current body of work that you're doing now?
Yeah, I learned that first of all, leaders are people too.
Right.
Founders, CEOs, the people that we look up to and sometimes we aspire to be. They are humans first before they put on any of the titles. And what I learned through experience, what I learned through experience is that if you don't take care of the human, the business cannot survive. I say a
Fact.
broken and fragmented leader will create a broken and fragmented company,
Ooh-wee.
organization, business, ministry. And so I know that from my experience because I was building. Hustle was like a part of my love language. I'm going to get this money. I'm building until I break down, until I broke down. And I was like, wait, yeah, no, that's
That ain't
not
work.
what I wanted to. And so in that work, I had to sit with myself. I believe that entrepreneurship, being a founder, being a leader, it is a crash course in personal development. And for me, it went beyond personal development. It went into spiritual development, financial
Wow.
development, physical
Wow.
development, taking care of my physical self, my emotions, my mentality, my relationships, all the things had to be worked on. And I wish I had worked on it before the company grew, because I believe that things would have went a little bit differently. My company was doing great before I closed it, but I was not doing great. I was
Mm.
not doing great. I was drowning personally. While the business is climbing, Maleeka's like steadily going down, right? And so that's what caused me to do this work where I solely focus on working with founders, leaders, CEOs, those executives who
Yeah.
want to grow their business. They want to scale it. So we're moving past monetization in this work. They want to grow, they want to scale their business. However, they want to make sure that they grow as well. And so first, We focus on the leader. We focus on them as a person. Who are you? What is your identity? How do you make
Wow.
decisions? Then we focus on how do you lead your people? What is your leadership identity? And after we get that straight, then we go into the company and we break it down and we dissect it and we make sure that systems are in place. It can operate and it can operate without you. All right. That's when you
That's where I
know
want to
you're really
go.
part. That's when you know
Yes.
if the business can't without you, you just got a job.
Right.
I'm trying to
Right.
stop people from, especially leaders and owners who need to be out of the rigmarole in the day to day. That was my focus because you don't have to build from burnout. And many of us
Mm.
have been taught that you work until you burn out.
Hustle,
You,
hustle,
you
hustle.
can you can rest when you die. What? No, I can rest right now if that's what I choose to do. So that's how I end up transitioning because I went through it and I know what it did to me. I know what it did to people around me. And I just knew that, hey, I want to help other people not do what I did, which I feel like is partly mentorship more than anything. But that's how I got here.
That is where I want to go. I mean, personally and with this conversation, because that is the key where people look successful on paper, they look successful on Facebook and your infamous TikTok, like they look successful, right? They have the followers, blah, 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 blah. But that solely depends on them and practice. It's dependent on if they wake up, if they press the button. And honestly, in all transparency, that is exactly where I have to press the button right now. And so I even posted today about if you don't have systems in place, you're gonna fizzle out by the end of the year. You're gonna fizzle out because I can't do all of the things. And so that's where I want to talk about how does the dependency typically show up in day-to-day leadership when these entrepreneurs, founders, and executives are in a space where everything depends on them.
Most of us get there because we have trust issues.
Facts.
We don't trust people that we have hired to do things like us. But I challenge that thought because if you wanted to hire another you wouldn't need the team. When you're hiring and looking for a team, you have to look for people who have skills that you may have, but they can execute faster than you. And so a lot of times we have trust issues and we don't realize it. We have rejection issues and we don't realize it. So when it comes to removing us out of the day to day, we just think, well, if I don't show up, it's not going to happen. You're not a solo person. All right. You have a team. I got to the point where I was paying payroll and still working hard. Then I had to go, wait a minute, what is happening? I had
Don't make
trust
sense.
issues. I know it, right? And so I believe, again, in focusing on the person, we got to dig, uncover. I'm a big proponent of therapy. And so we weave therapy into work. I have a whole network of therapists that when you work with me, you have to go to therapy because I just believe that we have mental health coaches and trauma all of that. No, leave that to the professionals who are licensed and they have to be accountable to some type of board for your life. These coaches are not. They don't even have to have certifications. And so I believe in therapy. So we along with working with me, we work with a therapist to see what are these things, what are these blocks, to figure out where you are as a leader and why are you building an organization that has to depend on you. Like what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, most of the time it's trust issues. I'm the star of the show. That was the thing. I was, of course, the CEO, but I was also the only salesperson. So if I didn't show up and I didn't sell, we did not grow. Now, people could do the other work. They can do the fulfillment side, but the sales was on me. And so you have to understand when you're having a mental health issue or crisis and you still have to show up. When I wasn't on, I'm curled up in the ball in the middle of my bed or in the car screaming. Right?
That's what they don't
because
see.
I'm like, that's the stuff people don't tell you. That's the stuff you don't show. People now, I feel like on TikTok, people are getting a little bit more open with the journey, but that's the stuff people don't tell you. It's just like, Bill, suck it up. Put your big girl panties on and put your big boy drawers on and just go. But I think that has been at a detriment to us builders because we feel like, hey, I can't tell somebody that I'm not okay. They're not going to understand. And I have multiple people around me, even people that I know, like, and trust. But in that stage, I was like, well, if I tell people what's going on, they may try to help me. And that means I may have to stop building. And I don't want that because who am I going to be if I'm not building? Who am I going to be if I'm not doing business? Because I have my identity around
Yeah.
this entrepreneurship.
Why do we
And
think
many of us,
indispensable is a strength? Why do you think we think that? Being indispensable is a strength.
people like to be needed. They like to be wanted. That's how we get validated. I say all the time, look, search all over and see if you can find somebody. And after you search again, look one more time before you reach out to me. I am okay with not being needed in this season. Okay. Keep looking, keep searching. All right. Don't need me. And the reason why I say that is because people get dependent on being needed. Almost, if you know, like elderly people, they say a lot of elderly people decline when they retire because they
Mhm.
don't have anything to do, or empty nesters. When the kids leave the house, it's like they suffer this type of crisis because no one needs them anymore, and we build our identities around being needed, around showing up, around, I say, putting on these personas, putting on these alter egos that really can't sustain the weight of who we are and who God created us to be.
Wow. You preaching and you don't even know it yet.
It happens sometimes.
Okay. So let's get back to your work centering on like that operations and sustainability. How do you define sustainable leadership beyond revenue and growth? Because we know that that is the metrics, right? But how do you define sustainable leadership?
I define sustainable leadership as, first of all, number one, being able to create other leaders that can thrive and
Ooh,
function
that's
without
good.
you.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Because I'm like, if you're leading and you're not creating other leaders, you just building like a little fan club because nobody's ascending. No
Right.
one is accelerating. No one's growing but you and your bank account.
Wow.
That's not a leader. That's a boss, right? And so I look at it as first multiplying yourself, all right, creating other leaders, but secondly,
Love it.
creating other leaders that are also, like you should be, healthy and whole. They're doing
Oh,
the work on themselves because sometimes you tend to duplicate who you are. And again,
mm,
if you are unsure of who you are, or if you have on this fake persona that you want everybody to see, behind the scenes, things are going to start crumbling because that's not sustainable. And a lot of times your team sees the dysfunction long before you want to admit that it's there. And so that sustainability is being able to keep up with who you are day in, day out, when you're on, when you're off, in the boardroom, at the bank, at the grocery store. Like, you need to be the same person. And many of us cannot do that because we put
mm.
on.
I think
Many
that's a
of
good
us do that.
segue to
Mhm.
what is the freedom, what was that? Freedom framework. Is that, yeah.
Yes, the framework, systemize, scale, and sabbatical, because after we do the self work, and after we discover that leadership identity, then we can move into, now let's bring that into you being the founder and the leader of this ship, of this company. And so
Mhm.
first we look at all systems. Most people have some type of system, even if they're not working it. So we put systems in that can be repeatable, that people can follow. When you take your vacation, because that's what we work for. We work for a whole month unplugged, where you do not touch your business. When we take you to that vacation and you're there, your company should still work. It should still be there. It should not explode. It should not implode. And so we look at those systems. Then we talk about scaling. All right. Then we talk about, okay, what do we need here? Can we duplicate it? Where are those holes in revenue? Like, how can we grow past what we already do? What's our brand promise? So what do we guarantee in our clients? So we look at that scale, like, how do we grow and that growth be sustainable? Because I've also been a part of organizations where we grew too fast and it was not sustainable. So we were growing and we were scaling. It wasn't working, right? And then last, we look at the sabbatical. So that's that 4-week vacation where you unplug, you go away, and we test before we do that whole thing. But you unplug, you go away to see if the systems that you have built, if the team that you have, if you have the right people in place. This is where the rubber meets the road. And so there are a lot of testing and tweaking before then. It's almost a 9 to 1 year process. Okay. So this is not your average, oh, just hire me a coach, consultant, strategist for 3 months and I'm off to the races. No, we're really going to do this work. And so you have to be committed and dedicated to the process, and you don't get to tap out, right? And so we put those systems in place so that we can grow, and if you want to do multiple locations, if you want to really empower your team to become leaders, and really scale the way you want, so it doesn't depend on you. If it depends on you, you can't scale. You can grow, but you can't scale. And so that's the work. That's the work that we do now.
Girl, that sounds like an MBA. I just want you to know it sounds like a program that's academic that you get a certificate after. So I hope that you give them a little something at the end, because that sounds like a program, to be honest. And it doesn't sound like quick work either. It doesn't sound like quick work. But
It's
that
not
leads
quick
me,
work.
yeah,
Quick work.
that leads me to the other facets of you that exist, and you are a professor, and so that tracks.
Yes.
That your business, it sounds a little academic-ish, but you teach those business fundamentals at the college that you represent. And what leadership gaps do you see emerging early for those kind of creative founders and service-based entrepreneurs?
See, one thing I'm recognizing that this new generation that's coming up, they're very much self-aware. They
Ooh.
are not putting up masks. They are not acquiescing to the status quo. They're like, that doesn't work for me. I'm going to change it. Whereas I'm a millennial. We're still trained kind of in the way that it was. This is how it works in corporate. This is how it works in entrepreneurship. And so what I'm learning is that these new leaders, they don't care nothing about none of that. And I got to say it that way. They're like, what? No, we can do it X, Y, Z, right? And
That's
so I
good.
believe that I think it's good too. And they want the information where we're just like, hey, just tell me what I need to do. They're like, nope, I need A through Z to help me. And what should be the outcome?
Wow.
How do you lay this out? I can figure out how to make it, but tell me what you need, how you want it. Let me go do it. Right. And they're open to feedback, which is something previous generations have not been. And that's probably because of the social media age where everyone's opinion matters, because anyone can share their opinion at any time, which I think is good in some ways. Now, y'all know it's a lot of stuff that is not so good, but I feel like that's what's coming. And so we are going to have to get on the same wavelength as them, as opposed to them having to get on the wavelength with us. Like they are coming. We're in an era right now that is being called the silver tsunami. And this is where all the boomers and such are making their way out of America, those that are smart and making their way out. And so they have all this space and time. But then you also have some who are like, I've been at this job for 40 years and I'm holding on to my title and my leadership. We see this happen a lot of time in churches, in ministries. I'm holding on to it until I die. Meanwhile, the organization died 20 years ago. And so you're holding on to something that's already dead. This new generation, they're like, nope, we are going to live. We are going to thrive. I am going to be happy by any means necessary. And so I think we can learn.
Afraid of it. They're not afraid of changing, pivoting. They like, this not working for me. I'm out of here. Whereas I'm in Gen X, right? So I'm a little bit just older than you, where like you said, we gonna stick and stay because we're afraid, to be honest. That's the bottom line, to make the shift because it may affect our pockets, our home, our blah, blah, blah. So nope, I'm not happy here, but I'm gonna stay here because I have to provide. That ain't what the new creators are doing.
And you know what's so interesting? I've always had that mindset. If I don't like it, I leave. I've had it in everything except for romantic relationships, but in everything else, if I don't like it, I leave. If it's a job, oh yeah, I don't want to do this no more. I'm out. That's not how I want to work.
For me. That just took me out. Wait a minute, I
don't really like you like that. So we're not on the same page. But I appreciate that about them, because like, you know what you're getting. They're coming in the door with masks off. Meanwhile, we're still trying to figure out, like, is it safe? Will I lose my following? Will I lose my audience? Will people stop showing up? Will people not pay? All those different things. They're not worried about that. And I feel like we need to learn from that, because that's the wave. Like, that's what's coming next.
Silver tsunami. I have not heard that yet. And I feel like I'm plugged in, but that makes sense. I mean, I'm approaching 50, so that I'm silver officially. AARP is actually reaching out to me.
You ain't silver, but what it means is that now you have this whole wave of people who are coming out of the workforce, and sometimes their children, their grown adult children, have to become caretakers. They need places to go, assisted living facility, like all of these things. And so
is this boomers? is the silver tsunami? Is that what you're saying? Boomers
Older. Boomers and
and
older.
older.
Mhm.
Okay, not
Yeah.
Gen X, just yeah. Okay, okay, okay.
No,
I
you
still
you are not included in that. This is that. It is not
I
about,
still feel
but
silver.
Gen X is becoming caregivers. So,
Yes.
you become that empty nester and you're free
Yeah.
of kids because now the kids are growing up, but then you become caregiver to a parent. So
Right.
we're in this very interesting time right
Very,
now
very much
where
so. Yeah.
and so I feel like this is like the perfect time for those leaders to really nail down and get flat footed and grounded in who am I as a person before I step in front of these people? Do I have
Mm,
me together so that when I'm in front of these people, the spotlight doesn't reveal all the imperfections and all
wow.
the stuff I haven't dealt with, and I'm not bleeding on people because I'm unhealed. I feel like this is the perfect time for that because we're in an interesting time where the opportunities are endless. Like I don't care what's happening on the news and on the media, right? I don't
Right.
care about none of that because as a kingdom business owner and entrepreneur, we're on heaven's economy. We're on something completely different. And so I feel like now is the time if we want to stay in sync with what heaven is doing on the earth, we have to be grounded in who we are and who God says that we are. And most of us don't want to slow down to do that work because it is work. It's the hardest work I've ever done. Is working on
Wow.
me. Mhm.
I have to take that in. I feel like just sitting. Let me pause right there because you said something though that I don't want to skip over. And we kind of
Mhm.
mentioned it before we started our live. When it comes to those leaders hanging on to spaces that they
Yeah.
should have already been let go. And let's move into that kingdom work. And I see that where leaders don't want to let go in ministry, but also
Yeah.
maybe promoting or have teams of leaders that are not quite ready to lead, right? They're
Yeah.
anointed to lead, but not ready to actually do the work that it causes to build a team that's strong and sustainable after this
Right.
silver tsunami has really left the building. Talk about that wave of leadership that's happening in ministry.
And I think that especially in ministry, I used to have an issue so bad. Because when I started on Periscope, it was really more from a ministry standpoint. So there's
Mhm.
preaching and then there's ministry. Ministry is where the work really happens. This is the people work, loving God and loving his people. And that's where the mess is sometimes, right? Because
Yeah,
we're people.
true story.
So there are people who only see the preaching side of things. They only see the stage time, right? And so a lot of
Mhm.
people say, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to say yes to God and I'm going to do ministry," not realizing what they are agreeing to. You are
Wow,
agreeing to try and kill everything about you and make sure that God is front and center and putting his people front and center. So that means you eat last. And
wow,
what's happening with the old guard is I've been doing this. I'm the bishop, I'm the apostle. And so I eat first and I have my table. I have the pastor's table spread and I have the pastor's mic. And what are we doing here? What about the people that's coming after you that need to be developed? Because they're going to be processed in ministry. You go through process. That's God's work, right? But you're
right.
supposed to be mentoring them and guiding them on being processed and doing the people work. Yes, I believe there's a big business part to ministry, right? Because you need
Absolutely.
money. Okay, you need
I
it.
don't know
But
why
at the
people
same
let's
time,
stop. Don't lose your train of thought, but I don't know why people don't think it costs to be in ministry. It's expensive business, okay?
look, and listen here. Maybe I'm just spoiled, but when I go to church, I don't want to be hot. Like because the air ain't get paid. Are you what? No, and I grew up in a church where we always had air. It was not completely wooden pews and all of that, but it costs to do that. And so a
Yeah,
lot of times the old heads have built the ministry around them. So you see their face on everything
right.
instead of the other people being highlighted and the other people and there being a proven system in place. If somebody says, "Hey, I'm called into ministry," we just throw them up on stage. That's not how that goes. You got to be in the pews for
Mm,
a minute. You serve and put that time in. I did a Instagram post just the other day. I think I said God will love to say like, "Okay, it's coming soon. It'll happen after a while." The whole time he's talking about 30 years from now. We don't know, but we're impatient people, and sometimes we have impatient leaders who either try to hold us back because they don't want us to be greater than them, or they try to push us out before we've actually been processed. And so I think it's a balance. It is a healthy balance that we need and that we don't have. And so the good thing about this digital age is you can really get whatever you need. So if your
In real
organization
time.
doesn't, yeah, if your organization doesn't have a path for ministers to just walk into ministry, there's plenty of people online who are qualified, not just anybody now, all right? There's people on, there are programs you can connect to online. There are ministries who their whole thing is equipping people. And so in that, I feel like we have to do a better job as ministers, because it's a lifestyle. We're all full-time ministry. It's not a hat that you put on and take off. I hate when people say that. I'm in full-time ministry. So what were you doing before? You were partly living for the Lord. Oh, okay, whatever. But it's that whole thing. Like, we have to be able to equip people in this work. And a lot, like 90% of ministry, honestly, is people. It's people. The whole Bible is about people. Yes, it points to Jesus, but it's about people and God's love for his people. And that's the part I feel like we've gotten away from. Can we just preach
Definitely missing
Jesus?
it. You're definitely missing it. We
Uh,
have to be thinking about his people. And I
his
say it a lot.
people.
Well, my lane, my zone of genius is developing leaders. So when I see it in ministry, because I haven't translated into ministry and kingdom work, but when I see it, I'm like, you got to remember the people you serve, and how are they going to get on board of what you're doing if you're not making them feel a certain way? And it does matter. But in ministry, we like, what it is what it is. Let's go. We got work to do. But at the same time, if you take the time to cultivate and build a team camaraderie and help them with the goal, like you tell them, here's the matrix we want to meet, here's the amount of outreach we want to do, like that will give them the buy-in to do more for you. But if you're just telling people, come on, slave every week and get this done, like, you know what I mean? That's not cultivating.
We've all been there at some
Your
point.
team
And the development and processing comes in to be able to say, hey, I don't have the capacity to do all of that. I can do this. Because I went through a phase where I was like, wherever the gaps are, I just need to jump in, right? But also, I put all the business that I was doing on the back burner. Okay, well, you do that for a amount of time, something starts to fall apart, right?
The money started
And so, look, okay, the money started looking a little funny. All of a sudden, you agitate it, and then doing ministry outside of the four walls as a church starts feeling like, oh, I'm obligated to do this. Not I get to do this, but I guess I gotta go serve these people. It becomes that, and I'm like, yeah, you're gonna get tired sometimes, but that should not become the disposition, right? When you're doing work, whether it's ministry or in business, when you start feeling like you're drugged, that's signs of I'm approaching burnout. Like I'm building to build from burnout. What is your attitude? What is your thought process towards what you're building, even if it's someone else's vision? What is your thought and attitude? Is it, well, I can do it better? Well, do it then. Because if you can do it better, you can be doing it. As a publicist or say former publicist, but I'm still in PR as well. What I hear people say sometimes is, I want a publicist that can do things that I can't do for myself. And my response is, well, why aren't you doing it? If you could get yourself on stages and booked on podcasts, and you could be showing up in magazines regularly, not on a fluke, like maybe once every 2 years, why are you not doing it? Right. And so we have to be like that from a ministry or a leadership standpoint, rather, from a founder standpoint. Where is my position? Where should I be? What am I called to? Who am I really called to? And how am I called to them? These are questions you have to ask. These are questions you have to ask yourself and be able to answer, or you will hit burnout before you can really build. You'll be fragmented. You'll be everywhere. You'll run yourself raggedy if you don't sit with you long enough.
Wow. I keep hearing you say the word founder. So this is there a reason why you use that word over other terminologies for what we're talking about?
I've always worked with CEOs or leaders.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was on, okay, how do I want to position this to take this public? I found myself arguing and going back and forth saying, well, I don't work with leaders. I work with CEOs and I work with founders. And I was like, wait a minute, these are leaders, right? Because a lot of times once we put on that CEO hat, we forget that we're founders. And a lot of times
Mm.
when we put on the leader title, we forget that at one point we were followers. So I like to say founders and leaders so that we don't get stuck on that CEO language. Because I believe every person alive is a leader in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Wow.
However, I work with people who founded something.
Right. Right.
People that run something. Like I don't work with all the leaders. I'm specifically targeting founders, someone who's built something from the ground up or they acquired something from the ground up who know that, hey, this is a great thing. It can go past the moon and beyond, but it's not. 9 times out of 10, it's not the organization. It's the founder. It's the leader. It's the person steering the ship.
Mm.
So that's why I use that language instead of just saying CEOs or leaders. I make sure that founders is in there because you built that so you founded a thing. You have an attachment to it. And so we have to do that work to keep the attachment, but make sure that attachment does not become your identity because that'll stop the ship from growing. It'll stop you from developing other leaders. It's all
Mm.
in the mind perspective.
I truly agree on that. Everything that you do in this space that we're talking about is about mindset, whether it be ministry or business. The mindset of your team, the mindset of you and how you present yourself to your team and how you lead is imperative. One thing that we have in
Yeah.
common that just came to mind is that I was talking to another founder yesterday about reading. And so I'm reading again for like the 1000th time, 12-week year, because I need things to happen really, really fast. So 12-week year is my book. But you are a leader that is a reader as well. What is a book that you would recommend in this space of entrepreneur leaders and developing others?
First one that comes to mind is Know What You're For by Jeff Henderson. And so
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Henderson, former pastor, and a Chick-fil-A consultant executive. So he was with Chick-fil-A back in the day. So he's a part of that whole infrastructure that we kind of put Chick-fil-A at the top of that quick service dining, that
Yeah.
whole experience. Right. And in this book, he talks about these 4 areas that you need to know how you show up and what you're for. He says we spend too much time telling people, especially with churches, we spend too much time telling people what we don't like and what we're
Mm.
not for, but we never tell them what we're for. All right.
Wow.
And so Know What You For breaks it down. And I'm like, I even recommend this book to my students because I feel like, again, as a leader, as a founder, who are you? What are your values? How do you make decisions? The world is on fire right now, if you ask me. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm not called to all the fires, but I am called to this one. And I am
Mm.
called to that one. And I know what I'm for. And I think many of us, and this is why people get on social media. I see a lot of founders and leaders and CEOs and pastors do this. They have to comment on everything that's happening because I got to keep my voice relevant.
Yeah, they do.
What are you? Is that
Yes.
an area of influence that you're called to? That's why I named this new thing Lead and Influence. Because what are you called to? You shouldn't have an opinion about everything. You're not called to that. But again, if you don't sit down and take that time, you don't know. The other book I recommend is The Other Side of Rejection by Joshua P. Smith. When I tell you I didn't realize I had rejection issues and it actually showed up before and after, I'm like, the whole time it's been rejection, going all the way back to childhood. But it helps you sit with these things that you're just overlooking. You're just thinking, oh, this is how I am. No, at some point, somebody rejected you or you took it as rejection and it became a trauma response. And so the good
Wow.
thing about Joshua, how he writes this book, he's a psychotherapist and he's a prophet.
Oh,
So
that's
there's
an interesting combination.
exactly, science and spirituality coming together. And I feel like that is what we need right now. Some of us, I say it, sometimes we're so spiritual, we're stupid because we're living in the heavens. And I'm like, but your feet are on the ground. Like you can't, the old saying, you can't be so heavy. You're not earthly good. That's where
Earthy
we
good.
are. So I like the other side of rejection as well because it blends the two. And so for those of us who are in ministry, and even Jeff Henderson books, as you see, all these books that I'm reading are written by people in ministry because I know what I'm called to. I'm not in
Right.
denial anymore. Let me put it that way. I'm not in denial. anymore. And so I feel like you have to find what you're called to, and then also seek out the voices and let God show you the voices that you should be learning from. Not the most
Mm,
popular names. I don't listen to a lot of people. I can name you on five hands the people, especially in the ministry space or even in the business space, that number's like three that I listen to. And that's on purpose because when you're getting too many instructions, you don't know
conflicting.
what, and people are stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And people are stuck. And so those are the two I would recommend every leader, every founder get. No, these are not exact business building books, but they are people building
Ooh,
books, which into building the business, building the organization, building the ministry. You got to start with the person first. We're in the business of people. If you don't like people, don't get in business, and please don't get in ministry. Please don't. Please don't. All right.
you know
Please
they get
don't.
ministry talk about I'm called to do this. I supposed to, but I don't like to talk to people. I don't like to recognize people. I don't like to let them in the space. I have to lead. Like you said, I have to be the face. One thing you said about the first book that you mentioned was about influence. And you do have influences in other areas as well. You serve on boards, you support initiatives that are all beyond your business now. How has serving in those different leadership environments shaped how you advise your founders today?
I believe that as leaders, as founders, first we are servants. Businesses serve purposes and we serve people. And so as people always say, like, oh, you're so busy. Depends on who's asking me to do something. All right. Because if it is serving a higher purpose, like the boards that I've been on that help serve hundreds and thousands of people, I'm not too busy to serve people because that's something I'm called to. We're all called to it. But that work shows up differently. A lot of times when I do serve on boards, I try to stay away from what I do in business. So a lot of times when people are asking me, they're like, oh, PR and marketing, we need that. And I'm like, no, let me work on building membership. Let me work on programming because I also don't want to always feel like I'm working. I want to also be grown and stretched in other areas that have been on the back burner. And so I think that's
Right.
important too. A lot of people look at what's easy for me to do. No, what can stretch you and challenge you and help build a new skill so that when it's time for you to put these skills to action in your own thing, you know how much work it costs. I think that people devalue what they pay people and they try to penny pitch because they don't know what it costs to produce a result. And so I like to learn, what does it cost to build these things and to do programming? How much work is in the event plan? Which those are all things that I do. But when I'm serving on these boards, it's from that space. Like, how can I grow and challenge and still serve people? Because that's what I'm called to do.
Man, that's key that we you know what? I don't think we do that enough as
Don't.
when we get into those other spaces where we work opposite of what we do because we are invited mostly to those spaces because of what we do. But when you get
What we do, right?
yeah, but when you get there, you can say, well, let me try this. And that keeps you stretching and growing and not really burnout because you're doing more of the same. I like that. I never even thought of
We're
that.
trying to stay away from burnout. We don't want to build from burnout. So
Right.
most of us are burnout because we're always working. For
Yeah.
me, this is something I'm working on this year, having a hobby. Every hobby I start, I figure out how to monetize it. Hobby gone. Just right. And so that's even the part not only am I guiding people in this work, but I'm still doing the work. Like, why don't you just learn how to make a candle? Why you got to sell them? Just make a candle, right?
It's in
Just
you.
make the candle. Yes. And so I tell people it's pros and cons to this, like being multifaceted, having options, and having all these skills. And one way people look at you and are like, oh, if I had this, I'd be able. But the other side is like, do you know what it takes to do things at this level? Most people aren't willing to do this work. I mean, the
Right.
entrepreneurship stuff, that's cool. It's fun, right? When the money is flowing, it's fun. But what about when you got to pay your team and you don't get paid for months? And you got to
Wow.
figure out how you got to pay your bills. That's work that you need to work on personally so that when you get there, it does not drag you. Because I had to do it all. What about when people come together to conspire against you, and these are people that you've helped, that you've given your last to, they're making six figures because of you and the help. And when I say because of you, Let me fix that. Because God allowed them to cross paths with you, because this is God's work, right? People making money and then they stop talking to you or they walk away. When you work on yourself, when these things happen, you can see it as a part of the process. Where's the lesson in it? Because we always look at things as losses, but I look at them as lessons. What can I learn from this? And so even in serving for free, because most time when you join boards, especially working boards, you just get in there. We've done things where it was like, this could be a full-time job, but it's volunteer work.
Yes. I'm in that space right now. I got 6 more months.
We've been there. And so from that space, you kind of understand. It allows you to then look at what you're building that is supposed to help be your lifestyle and your ministry, your business. It helps you look at it with a bigger appreciation. All right. And so that's why I do it. That's why I like serving. I like helping people. And I don't like to be boxed in and say, oh, you can only help this way. God did not make me that way. I'm multi-layered, multi-dimensional. I'm multi-fast. Like, don't put me in that box.
It's been a great conversation. I think the conversation brings us back to the truth that leadership is not just about growth, it's about stewardship. And we also talked about that founder dependency, the operational clarity, the sustainable leadership that we have to have in order to be what is really successful. We use that term. And I mentioned this earlier about like followers and influence on social media, but the real true success that we learned today is sustainable businesses, which is not centered around the founder, the dependency of the founder showing up. So I love that. And I see that in the company that I work for or work with now, which is the Carter Center. The Carters have since passed away, but the legacy is still strong because when they were here, they built the organization based on when they are gone. The whole premise of what they did in the last 20 years was about them being gone. And they had been preparing for it. So it really mirrors what I'm doing today. But in my own business, you woke me up personally to be like, so I need to go on this website. What's this website, honey? Y'all got to check it out. It's an amazing website. It's MaleekaHollaway.com. You got to go ahead and connect with her in that way. You'll see all her social media channels and what she is offering. So Maleeka, thank you for bringing the wisdom, the strategy. We got to say that again because you're a strategist. And honestly, your honesty, I say honestly, your honesty and your transparency to this sit down. Your work reminds us that success should not come at the cost of your well-being. For everyone watching, take a moment to reflect on where you may be carrying more than you were meant to. Consider what systems, support, clarity could shift your leadership from survival to sustainability. Apply what resonated with you and reflect on what challenged you. I'm talking about me too. And continue the conversation beyond today. Thank you for sitting with us, and we'll see you next time on The Sit Down with Yolonda Jay.